The Ferris wheel stopped with us hanging over the county fair, and Natalie Brooks made a sound I had never heard from her in high school. Not a scream. Not exactly. More like her pride tried to leave her body before fear could catch it. One second she was sitting across from me in our little swinging gondola, pretending the view didn't bother her. The next, the wheel gave a loud metallic shudder. The lights blinked twice, and every basket above and below us rocked gently in the August air. Natalie's face went pale. Then she looked at me like I was the only solid thing left in the world. "Owen," she whispered. I had waited 10 years to hear Natalie Brooks say my name like it mattered. I just hadn't pictured it happening 200 feet above a fried dough stand while a teenager in a neon vest yelled, "Everybody stay calm." For the record, I'm Owen Callahan, 25 years old, assistant manager at my family's hardware store, professional fixer of leaky faucets, crooked porch steps, and everyone else's emergencies. My own life? Less impressive. I was the guy people called when something broke, not the guy they thought about after midnight. Dependable. Useful. The human equivalent of a spare key. And Natalie Brooks had been the girl I'd spent half of senior year pretending not to stare at. Back then, she wore red lipstick to first period like an act of rebellion, edited the school paper, corrected teachers without sounding arrogant, and laughed with her whole face. I used to sit 2 rows behind her in English and tell myself I liked her because she was beautiful. That was the lazy explanation. The truth was, I liked her because she noticed things. She noticed when our history teacher skipped over the women in every chapter. She noticed when the quiet kid at lunch had no one to sit with. She noticed when I rebuilt the old theater set after some football players knocked it down and said, "Owen Callahan, you're either a saint or you need better hobbies." I had answered, "Both can be true." She had smiled at me for 3 full seconds. I lived off those 3 seconds for an embarrassing amount of time. After graduation, she left for Chicago, then somewhere in Oregon, then apparently back home with a chin-length haircut, a cream sundress under a denim jacket, and the same habit of making me feel like I'd forgotten how to use my hands. I ran into her at the ticket booth that night because my younger sister had dragged me to the fair, then abandoned me for a guy who sold kettle corn and had 4 arms like a lumberjack. Natalie was standing under a string of carnival lights, studying the ride tickets in her palm like they were a legal document. When she saw me, her eyebrows lifted. "Owen Callahan. Natalie Brooks. You got taller. You got shorter. I did not. I'm choosing to believe I had a growth spurt at 24. She laughed, and just like that, 10 years folded in on themselves. She told me she was back in Maple Ridge for a few months, helping her mother recover from knee surgery and doing remote work for a magazine. I told her I was still at Callahan Hardware, still fixing things that should have been replaced in the 90s. "You always were good with broken things," she said. There was something soft under it. I almost made a joke, I didn't. Instead, I said, "Only the ones that want to be fixed." Her eyes held mine a beat too long. Then the Ferris wheel lit up behind her, all blue and gold bulbs turning against the darkening sky, and she looked at it with theatrical disgust. "I hate that thing," she said, "so naturally you're standing in line for it. I'm trying to become the kind of woman who does not hate that thing. Ambitious. Are you mocking my personal development? Absolutely not. I support women in all vertical endeavors." She rolled her eyes, but she smiled while doing it. That was how I ended up in a Ferris wheel basket with my high school crush, knees almost touching, the fair spreading beneath us in warm, noisy color. At first, she played it cool. She asked about my parents, my sister, whether old Mr. Hanley still came into the store every Saturday to complain about batteries he had definitely put in backward. I asked about her writing. Her face changed when she talked about it. She lit from inside, hands moving, voice faster, like the world finally had enough room for her thoughts. I remembered that about her. I remembered too much. At the top, the wheel paused the way Ferris wheels do, letting us look out over the town. The football field lights glowed in the distance. The old water tower had been repainted. Main Street looked smaller from up there, almost harmless. Natalie gripped the safety bar. "You okay?" I asked. "Perfect. You're strangling government-approved metal." "I'm affectionate." "With infrastructure?" "I'm complicated." Her mouth twitched, but her knuckles were white. The basket swayed. She shut her eyes, and then the whole wheel jerked and stopped. Not the gentle pause at the top. A hard stop. A mechanical cough came from somewhere below us, followed by a long squeal that made every person on the ride go silent at once. Natalie sucked in a breath. The gondola rocked again. "Owen," she said, smaller this time. I leaned forward, keeping my voice low. "Hey, look at me." She opened her eyes, but they didn't quite find mine. They were fixed past my shoulder on the drop behind me on all that open air. "We're fine," I said. "It's probably a sensor. They'll reset it." "You know that?" "I fix things for a living." "You fix screen doors and sump pumps. Ferris wheels are just screen doors with commitment issues." That got half a laugh out of her, but it broke in the middle. Below us, the ride operator shouted something about a delay. Someone in a lower basket groaned. Music from the carousel kept playing, bright and ridiculous, like the night had no idea what was happening. Natalie pressed one hand to her chest. "I can't," she said. Then the basket shifted in the wind. She made that small, proud, terrified sound again. And before I could offer her my hand, Natalie unlatched her seatbelt. My heart dropped straight through the floor. "Natalie, don't move." "I can't sit over here." Okay, but don't stand up fast." "I'm not standing up fast, I'm dying with intention." "Nobody's dying." "You don't know that. You sell pipe fittings." She was shaking now, but still somehow arguing with me, which made me want to laugh and reach for her at the same time. "Come here," I said. Her eyes snapped to mine. The words hung between us, too simple and too intimate. I held out both hands, palms up. Slowly. The basket rocked once as she shifted her weight. I forgot the height, forgot the fare, forgot every stupid thing I had never said to her at 17. All I saw was Natalie moving toward me in that little metal cage, brave and terrified, trusting me enough to cross 3 feet that suddenly felt like a canyon. She caught my hands. Her fingers were cold. I guided her carefully, one step, then another, until she was in front of me. Then the wheel groaned. Natalie flinched and folded straight into my lap. Not gracefully, not like a movie, more like a woman choosing survival over dignity. Her knees pressed against my thigh, her hands clamped around my shoulders, and her face buried against the side of my neck. For about 2 seconds, I became every version of myself at once. The 17-year-old who couldn't talk to her, the 25-year-old trying to be decent, and the complete idiot whose pulse had suddenly forgotten basic rhythm. "Sorry," she breathed against my collar. "Don't be. I'm on you. I noticed. I mean, I can move. Please don't." She went still. I closed my eyes for 1 second because apparently I had said that out loud. When she pulled back just enough to look at me, her face was inches from mine. The carnival lights flashed blue across her cheek. Her hands were still on my shoulders. "Owen," she whispered, but this time fear wasn't the only thing in her voice. I swallowed. "Yeah?" Her gaze dropped to my mouth, then came back up. "I need to tell you something before this thing starts moving again." The Ferris wheel creaked above us, the whole town holding its breath below. And Natalie Brooks, still sitting in my lap, said, "I didn't ask you to ride with me because I was scared of heights." For a second, I genuinely wondered if the height had stolen oxygen from my brain. Natalie's hands were still on my shoulders. Her knees were tucked against my thigh. The entire Ferris wheel hung motionless above the fair, and she had just said the kind of sentence that could rewrite a man's personal history. "What?" I asked. "Very smooth." Natalie's cheeks flushed even in the blue carnival light. "I mean, I am scared of heights," she said quickly. "Obviously. I'm currently trying to fuse my skeleton to yours." "I'm not complaining." Her fingers tightened a little. "But that wasn't the only reason," she said. Below us, someone yelled, "How long is this going to take?" A ride operator answered something useless. The gondola swayed gently, and Natalie inhaled sharply, pressing closer before she could stop herself. I wrapped one arm around her waist. Slow. Careful, giving her room to pull away. She didn't. Instead, she looked down at my hand like she was studying proof of something. "I saw you at the ticket booth." she said, and I thought if I didn't do something ridiculous, I'd probably just say, hi, make polite small talk, and then go home and regret it for another decade. My chest did something dangerous. Another decade? She gave me a shaky smile. Don't sound so smug. I'm not smug. I'm processing. You look smug. I've been told my processing face is handsome and humble. By who? My mother. Natalie laughed, and this time it stayed a laugh. Small, breathless, but real. It warmed the little space between us. I should have said something charming then. Something easy. Instead, I said the truth. I had a crush on you in high school. Her mouth parted. Then she blinked at me. You did not. I very much did. No, you didn't. Natalie, I once joined the yearbook cleanup committee because you were on it. You hated yearbook. I didn't even know what yearbook cleanup was. I just appeared in the library with a trash bag and hope. She stared at me. Then her face changed in this slow, dawning way that made me feel 17 again, only braver. You barely talked to me, she said softly, because I had a crush on you. That is terrible strategy. I know that now. I thought you were just quiet. I was terrified. Of me? Of wanting you, I said. The words came out lower than I intended. Natalie's eyes held mine, and suddenly the fair sound seemed far away. The carousel music, the generators humming, the distant calls from game booths. Up there, it was just us and the dark sky and the fact that her thumb had started moving lightly against the seam of my shirt. You can't say things like that while I'm trapped in your lap, she whispered. Do you want me to stop? She shook her head once, immediate, honest. No. The ride gave a metallic clank. Natalie flinched, her forehead touching mine. I tightened my arm around her, not because she needed rescuing, but because she was there and warm and choosing to stay. Still with me? I asked. Unfortunately, yes. I was hoping to disassociate into a calmer woman. I like this one. Hey, she's sweaty and dramatic. She's honest. Natalie went quiet. Then she said, I wasn't back then. I waited. Her gaze dropped to the collar of my shirt. I had a crush on you too. If the Ferris wheel had started spinning backward, I wouldn't have been more shocked. You did? Don't make me say it twice while suspended over a livestock barn. You had a crush on me? Owen. Sorry, processing face. She rolled her eyes, but her smile trembled. You were kind, she said. Not nice. There's a difference. Nice is easy. Kind costs something. I didn't know what to do with that. Compliments usually bounced off me. From Natalie, they landed somewhere under my ribs. You noticed me? I asked. Her expression softened. I noticed everything about you. That should have been impossible. In high school, Natalie had seemed like a person moving under a spotlight while I was just part of the scenery. What did you notice? I asked, because apparently I had become greedy. That you sharpened pencils for the whole table before exams and pretended it was because you were bored. That you always saved the corner brownie at bake sales for your sister. That when Mr. Alvarez got sick, you mowed his lawn every Saturday and never told anyone. I looked away. She touched my jaw. That brought my eyes back fast. Natalie. I noticed, she said again. The Ferris wheel jerked. Lights flickered along the spokes. A collective cheer rose from below as the wheel moved a few inches, then stopped again. Natalie groaned and buried her face against my chest. False hope, she muttered. I hate false hope. I've got you. I know. Her voice softened against me. That's the problem. How is that a problem? She lifted her head. Because I'm leaving again in 3 months. There it was. The thing under the thing. The summer night cooled around us. For Chicago? I asked. Maybe. My editor wants me back in the office part-time. There's also a possible assignment in Seattle. Nothing is decided, but she swallowed. I didn't come home to start something. I looked at her, really looked. The woman in my arms wasn't the untouchable girl from English class. She was scared, yes, but not just of heights, of wanting, of roots, of being seen and then having to decide what to do about it. Neither did I said. Her face fell a little. I didn't finish. I brushed a strand of hair back from her cheek and she went still under my hand. I didn't come to the fair tonight to find the girl I never got over sitting under a string of lights, looking like trouble in a sundress. Her lips parted. But I did, I said. So I'm not going to pretend I don't want whatever this is just because it might get complicated. Her eyes shone. You always this brave now? No, you're in my lap. It's giving me delusions of confidence. She laughed, but it broke into something softer. The wheel clanked again, then began to move for real. Slowly, basket by basket, we descended through the summer air. Natalie did not climb off me. She stayed tucked close, one hand on my chest, feeling my heartbeat like it was a handhold. When our gondola reached the platform, the operator opened the gate with an apologetic grin. Sorry about that, folks. Natalie looked at the platform, then at me. I should probably regain my dignity. I liked your dignity where it was. Her blush was immediate and spectacular. Still, I helped her step down. Her knees wobbled when her sandals hit the metal platform and she grabbed my hand. Then she didn't let go. We walked away from the ride like that, palm to palm, past the ring toss and the lemonade stand, neither of us saying anything for a minute. Finally, Natalie stopped under a strand of lights near the duck pond game. Owen? Yeah? I'm still scared. Of the Ferris wheel? She shook her head. My hand tightened around hers. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell sugar from the cotton candy booth and the faint citrus of her shampoo. I'm scared if I kiss you, she said. I'll want to do it again. I smiled, slow and helpless. That's my exact concern. And I'm willing to risk it. Natalie rose on her toes. This time I met her halfway. Her kiss was soft at first, cautious, like a question she had been carrying for 10 years. Then my hand settled at her waist, and she made a tiny sound against my mouth that turned the question into an answer. When she pulled back, she was smiling. Okay, she whispered. Bad news. What? I definitely want to do that again. I brushed my thumb over her hand. Then let me buy you a funnel cake, I said, and you can tell me all the other terrible decisions you want to make tonight. Natalie laughed and leaned into my side as we started walking. Careful, Callahan, she said. I'm feeling very brave on solid ground. Funnel cake turned out to be a test of character. Natalie claimed she only wanted one bite, which was the sort of lie decent people tell before stealing half your dessert. You have powdered sugar on your nose, I said. She froze with her fingers halfway to the plate. Where? I reached across the picnic table and brushed it away with my thumb. It was an excuse. We both knew it. Her eyes lifted to mine and suddenly the fair got quiet around the edges again. There, I said. You're very dedicated to cleanliness. Family business, we sell mops. Is that your best line? No, my best line is, want to see the premium caulk aisle? Natalie choked on a laugh. Absolutely not. I save that one for serious relationships. Good to know I'm being courted with fried dough first. Courted? The word should have felt too big for a night that had started with ride, tickets, and panic. Instead, it settled between us like a possibility. She tore off another piece of funnel cake and held it out to me. I leaned forward to take it, but she pulled it back an inch. Say, please. Natalie. Solid start, but not what I asked. I looked at her, all smug smile and bright eyes, and felt something inside me give way. Please, I said. Her smile softened as she fed me the bite. It was messy. Powdered sugar hit my shirt. Her fingertip brushed my lower lip. Neither of us moved for a second, then Natalie whispered, This feels dangerous. The funnel cake? You! My pulse kicked. I wanted to joke. Joking was safer. Joking had gotten me through 10 years of not saying her name too much. But she was looking at me like she wanted the truth. And I was tired of being careful with things I wanted. I'm not trying to be, I said. I know. She wiped sugar from her thumb with a napkin, suddenly shy. That's the dangerous part. We left the table and wandered past the prize booths. She beat me at water guns with shocking aggression and won a stuffed raccoon wearing a tiny sheriff hat. You hustled me, I said. I was editor of the school paper. I thrive under pressure. You said you panicked on the Ferris wheel? I contain multitudes. She tucked the raccoon under her arm and slipped her free hand into mine like she'd been doing it for years. That was the part that undid me, not the kiss. Not her in my lap, although that memory was going to ruin my ability to function around Ferris wheels forever. It was the easy reach of her fingers, the quiet choice. We found a bench near the edge of the fairgrounds where the noise softened and fireflies blinked in the grass beyond the fence. The Ferris wheel was moving again, innocent as anything, lighting the night in slow circles. Natalie leaned her shoulder against mine. I used to imagine leaving this town would make me into the right version of myself, she said. What version was that? The one who never got stuck, never needed anyone, never came home unless she wanted to. And did it work? She gave a small laugh. For a while. I waited because I could feel more behind it. My job is good, she said. I love writing. I love chasing a story and finding the sentence that makes it open up. But I got really good at leaving. Apartments, cities, people. If I left first, nobody could decide I was too much. I turned toward her. Who told you that? She looked down at the raccoon in her lap and adjusted its little hat. My dad, in 1,000 tiny ways. My ex more directly. There it was, the brief shadow of another man. Not a villain entering the stage, just a bruise someone else had left. What did he say? I asked carefully. That I made everything complicated. That I asked too many questions. Wanted too much reassurance. Felt too deeply about things other people just got over. Her voice was calm, which somehow made it worse. I laced my fingers tighter through hers. Natalie, you asked a Ferris wheel to stop being tall. That's complicated. She laughed despite herself and bumped my shoulder. I'm being vulnerable. I know. I turned our joined hands over and brushed my thumb across her knuckles. I'm saying complicated isn't bad. Hardware stores are complicated. Old houses are complicated. Good pie crust is apparently complicated according to my mother, who still won't let me touch one. Her smile lingered. And you, I said. You're not too much. You're specific. Specific? Detailed, bright, occasionally bossy. Occasionally? Frequently bossy, but in a compelling way. She looked at me for a long moment. You really see me like that? I saw you like that when we were 17. The softness in her face made my chest ache. Then she leaned in and kissed me. Not cautious this time. Her hand came up to my jaw and mine found her waist, and the kiss deepened under the flicker of fair lights. She tasted like sugar and lemonade, like nerve, like a yes I hadn't known I was allowed to ask for. When she pulled back, her forehead rested against mine. I don't want to leave first with you, she whispered. My hand stilled at her waist. What do you want? She breathed out. I don't know yet, but I want to find out instead of running before it starts. That was a step, a real one. I kissed her once, softer, because I didn't trust my voice right away. Then we find out, I said. Her smile was small and scared and beautiful. A phone buzzed. Natalie glanced at her screen and the moment shifted, not broken, just reminded of real life. My mom, she said. She's asking if I remembered her ice pack from the medical booth. Did you? No, because someone distracted me with emotional honesty and carbohydrates. Villainous behavior. We walked to the first aid tent for the ice pack, then toward the parking lot. My truck was parked near the far fence. Her car was in the opposite direction. At the split in the gravel path, we stopped. Neither of us let go. I have to get home, she said. Mom's knee gets bad at night. Of course. And tomorrow I have a deadline. Okay. And I should probably not stand in a parking lot making out with you like I'm 17. I looked around. Probably not. She stepped closer. but I was very responsible at 17. That's true. So maybe I'm due for some recklessness. I smiled. I support women in all horizontal endeavors too. She gasped, then laughed into her hand. Owen Callahan! I panicked. You absolutely did not. No, I've been waiting all night to say that. She shook her head, but she was still smiling when she grabbed the front of my shirt and pulled me down. The kiss was quicker than the one on the bench, but not smaller. It had heat in it. Promise. Her fingers curled in the cotton over my chest like she liked finding me solid. When she let go, her cheeks were flushed. Text me, she said. I don't have your number. I put it in your phone while you were losing at water guns. You stole my phone? I improved it. I pulled it from my pocket. Sure enough, there she was. Natalie Brooks, followed by a raccoon emoji. You're trouble, I said. She walked backward a few steps, grinning. Specific trouble. Then she turned toward her car and I stood there like an idiot until she was safely under the parking lot lights. My phone buzzed before she even reached her door. Natalie. For the record, I wanted to kiss you before the Ferris wheel. I typed back with a grin I couldn't fight. Me. For the record, I wanted to kiss you in high school. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Natalie. Then don't wait 10 more years for the next one. I looked up. Across the gravel lot, she was leaning against her car, phone in hand, watching me. So I didn't wait. I crossed the distance between us and her smile bloomed before I even reached her. I crossed the parking lot and kissed Natalie against her car like I was making up for 10 years in one breath. She laughed into my mouth at first, surprised and pleased, then melted into me with a little sigh that went straight through my chest. When we finally broke apart, she blinked up at me. Well, she said, that was punctual. I'm trying to be more efficient. I support this personal growth. Her hands were still fisted lightly in my shirt. Mine were braced on the roof of her car, caging her in without touching too much, because if I touched too much, I was going to forget we were in a county fair parking lot beside a minivan with a bumper sticker that said, honk if you love goats. Natalie followed my gaze, saw the sticker, and snorted. Romantic, she said. I chose the location carefully. Next time, maybe somewhere with fewer livestock endorsements. Next time. The word stayed with me after she drove away. For the next 2 weeks, Natalie Brooks became the best interruption in my life. She texted me photos of her mother's ancient house with captions like, is this crack in the wall charming or fatal? I sent back, depends. Is the wall flirting with me? She wrote, everything flirts with you. You're a hardware man with 4 arms. I stared at that text for a full minute in aisle 5, holding a box of deck screws like it contained state secrets. We saw each other whenever we could. Not dramatic dates, not fancy ones, better ones. I brought dinner to her mother's porch, 2 burgers, 1 salad she ignored, and a milkshake she pretended we were sharing equally. We sat on the top step while her mom watched a crime show inside at a volume loud enough to solve murders 2 counties over. Natalie told me about the first article she ever got published and how she cried in a grocery store parking lot because no one in Chicago knew it mattered. I told her about the year my dad hurt his back and I almost didn't finish community college because the store needed me. She looked at me then, really looked. Do you ever resent it? She asked. Staying? I picked at the label on my root beer bottle. Sometimes honesty took longer to find than a joke. I used to, I said. A little. Not because I hate the store, I don't. I like knowing which faucet Mrs. Donnelly needs before she asks. I like that people trust me. But sometimes it felt like everyone else got a map and I got a key to the same front door. Natalie was quiet. Then she slid her fingers between mine on the porch step. That's a beautiful sentence, she said. I laughed once. That's what you took from my emotional confession. I'm a writer, I can multitask. Her thumb brushed mine. And for what it's worth, I don't think staying makes you small. I looked over. The porch light gilded her cheekbones. Her hair was tucked behind one ear. She had barbecue sauce on the corner of her mouth. I leaned in and kissed it away. Her breath caught. That was also efficient, she whispered. I'm improving rapidly. By the 3rd week, she knew the store well enough to find me by sound. Back here, I called one evening from the stockroom. She appeared in the doorway wearing jeans, a green sweater, and the expression of a woman entering sacred ground. So, this is where Maple Ridge's most eligible pipe fittings live. Careful, some of them are emotionally unavailable. Tragic. I was closing alone. The aisles were quiet, the front windows blue with dusk. Natalie wandered between shelves, touching paint samples and drawer pulls like she was cataloging tiny pieces of other people's homes. This place smells like sawdust and competence, she said. That's our official slogan. She stopped by the wall of keys. Can I ask you something? Always. Did you ever think about leaving? Really leaving? I leaned against the counter. Yeah. Her eyes flicked to mine. I got accepted to a carpentry program in Vermont when I was 19, I said. Didn't go. Because of your dad? Partly because I was scared too. I shrugged, but it felt heavier than that. What if I left and I was still just me? Natalie crossed the aisle slowly. Just you is kind of my problem lately, she said. My mouth went dry. She stopped in front of me, close enough that her sweater brushed my shirt. What kind of problem? The kind that makes me check my phone during interviews. The kind that makes me drive past your store even when I don't need anything. The kind that makes leaving feel less simple than it used to. I touched her waist. Natalie. I got an email today, she said. There it was. The change in the air. I kept my hands where they were because stepping back would have been easier, and I didn't want easy with her. From your editor? She nodded. Seattle. 6-month assignment. Big feature series. The kind I used to say yes to before finishing the email. When would you leave? 2 weeks. The store went very still around us. I wanted to be good. Supportive. The kind man she thought I was. I also wanted to lock the front door, pull her into my arms, and ask her not to go anywhere. I couldn't reach her by driving 10 minutes through town. I did lock the front door, but only because we were closed. Then I turned back to her. What do you want? Natalie's laugh came out shaky. I was hoping you'd tell me. No. Her eyes widened. I mean, I can tell you what I want, I said, but I'm not going to make the decision for you and call it love. Her face softened and crumpled a little at the same time. What do you want? She asked. I stepped closer. You, I said. Here. There. Over terrible phone reception, in airports, on my porch, in your mother's kitchen while she pretends not to watch us. I want to date you in a way that has plans. I want to know what coffee you drink when you're exhausted and what you sound like when you're mad at me. I want the ordinary stuff with you, Natalie. Not because it's easy, because it's you. She stared at me, eyes bright. That was a lot, I said. It was a good lot. I panicked. No, you didn't. She touched my chest, right over my heart. You chose me out loud. The words hit harder than I expected. I covered her hand with mine. Yeah, I did. Natalie rose on her toes and kissed me. It wasn't frantic. It wasn't fairground brave or parking lot hot. It was deeper than that. A kiss with trembling in it, with fear, with two people standing at the edge of a decision and reaching for each other anyway. When she pulled back, she rested her forehead against my chin. I want ordinary with you too, she whispered. That scares me more than Seattle. I held her close between the key machine and a display of discounted garden gloves, and somehow it felt like the most romantic place in the world. Then be scared with me, I said. She nodded against my chest. For a while, that was enough. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, and I saw the email preview light up the screen. Assignment contract attached. Response requested by Friday. Friday was 2 days away. Natalie looked back at me, her hand still in mine. I don't want to run, she said. Then don't. Her eyes searched mine. I also don't want to stay just because I'm afraid leaving will ruin this. I squeezed her hand. Then don't do that either. A tiny smile broke through. You're annoyingly reasonable. I sell measuring tape. It comes with the job. She laughed, then leaned into me again. But when I kissed her hair, I felt the truth of it settle around us. 2 days, one decision, and for the first time in my life, staying right where I was felt like the biggest risk I could take. Friday came with rain, not dramatic rain, not movie rain, Just steady Maple Ridge rain that made the hardware store windows blur and turned the parking lot into a gray mirror. Natalie didn't come in that morning, or that afternoon. I told myself not to stare at my phone, then stared at it so hard Mrs. Donnelly asked if I was trying to hypnotize it. At 5:30, I locked up and found Natalie sitting on the bench outside the store, hood up, knees tucked together, holding two coffees. My heart moved before the rest of me did. "You're wet," I said. "Very observant. No wonder people trust you with lumber." I sat beside her. She handed me a coffee and our fingers brushed. Neither of us drank. I said yes, she told me. The rain tapped against the awning above us. I nodded once because I'd practiced being supportive. I'd practiced being decent. I'd practiced not letting my face say, "Please don't go," when my mouth said, "Congratulations." "That's huge," I said. Her eyes searched mine. "Owen, I mean it." I turned toward her. "Natalie, you wanted this before you wanted me." Her face tightened. "But," I said, before she could speak, "I'm selfish enough to be glad you want me too." A breath left her, half laugh, half ache. "I do," she said. "I really do." I set my coffee down, took hers too, and put both cups on the bench beside us. Then I reached for her. She came into my arms so quickly it hurt. Her face pressed into my neck, the same place she'd hidden on the Ferris wheel. But this time she wasn't shaking because of height. This was harder. This was choosing something good without knowing exactly what it would cost. "I don't want to be the woman who runs," she whispered. "You're not." "I'm leaving." "That's not the same thing." She pulled back, eyes wet. "How do you know?" "Because you came here first." Her mouth trembled. I brushed rain from her cheek with my thumb. "Runaway people disappear. You showed up with coffee. Bad coffee. Terrible coffee, but emotionally significant." She laughed, and I kissed her before the laugh could turn into crying. The kiss tasted like rain and fear and something stubborn enough to survive both. When I drew back, I kept my forehead against hers. "We make a plan," I said. "A plan?" "Yes, I'm excellent with plans. I own 3 tape measures." "That is both reassuring and alarming." "I'll come to Seattle after the first month, once you're settled. You come back for Thanksgiving if you can." "We call on Wednesdays and Sundays. We text whenever. We don't pretend it won't be hard, and we don't use hard as an excuse to quit." Natalie stared at me like I had just handed her a key to a door she didn't know existed. "And if it gets too hard?" she asked. "Then we say that out loud too." She nodded slowly. Then she whispered, "I'm falling in love with you." Everything in me went quiet. The rain, the street, the whole town. I had imagined Natalie Brooks saying a lot of things to me over the years. My teenage imagination had been ambitious and mostly embarrassing, but nothing I'd imagined felt like this. Like being seen and chosen in the same breath. "I'm already there," I said. She closed her eyes. I kissed her again, softer this time, because the words had made us both breakable. 2 weeks later, I stood in the airport with one hand in Natalie's and the other holding the stuffed sheriff raccoon she had insisted I keep. "For morale," she said. "My morale or his?" "Yes." She looked nervous, excited, beautiful. Her suitcase leaned against her leg. A boarding announcement crackled overhead. I hated every wheel on that suitcase. "I packed the good phone charger," she said. "The long one." "Smart." "And I downloaded that video app you said your sister uses." "Good." "And I might call too much." "I'm counting on it." Her smile wobbled. I touched her face. "Go write something brilliant." She leaned into my palm. "Go fix something complicated." I'm looking at her. That was either romantic or rude. Both can be true. She laughed, then rose on her toes and kissed me in the middle of departures, like we had all the time in the world, and none at all. When she walked through security, she looked back 3 times, I counted. 6 months later, Natalie came home with a published feature series, a suitcase full of dirty laundry, and a confidence in her shoulders I had not put there and did not need to. That was the best part. She had gone. She had grown. And she had still come back reaching for my hand before she even reached baggage claim. By the following spring, she took a remote editor position that let her travel when she wanted and return when she needed. I finally visited Seattle. She showed me the coffee shop where she wrote half her series, the apartment window that looked out over wet rooftops, the bench where she said she missed me so badly she almost bought a plane ticket at midnight. I told her I almost drove to the airport 3 separate times and once made it as far as the interstate. You didn't tell me that, she said. I was trying to seem stable. How did that go? Poorly. My sister found me reorganizing screws by emotional category. Natalie laughed until she cried. A year after the Ferris wheel stopped, the fair came back to Maple Ridge. So did we. The wheel turned in blue and gold above the midway, innocent and smug. Natalie stood beside me, eyeing it like an old enemy. I still hate that thing, she said. I know. I am not riding it. Okay. She looked at me suspiciously. That's it? That's it. No speech about facing fears? Nope. No teasing? I can tease you from the ground. Her mouth curved. Growth looks good on you, Callahan. I squeezed her hand. I don't need the Ferris wheel. She softened, already knowing. I pulled a small brass key from my pocket, freshly cut, still warm from the machine. Her breath caught. It's not a proposal, I said quickly. Not yet. I mean, unless you want... No, sorry, I'm panicking. Natalie's eyes shone. What is it? A key to my place. I swallowed. For when you're in town, for when you're not. For whenever you want ordinary with me. She took the key like it weighed more than metal. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a key of her own. To my apartment, she said. For Seattle. For whenever you decide you're brave enough to leave the screw aisle. I laughed, but my throat was tight. We stood under the Ferris wheel, trading keys like vows neither of us were ready to rush and both of us already meant. Then Natalie grabbed the front of my shirt the way she had in the parking lot that first night and kissed me beneath the carnival lights. Around us the fair spun on, music, sugar, laughter, the slow, bright circle of the wheel where she had once climbed into my lap and accidentally changed my life. This time, both our feet were on the ground. This time, she held on because she wanted to. And I held on because I knew exactly what I had. What would you have done if your high, school crush panicked on a Ferris wheel, climbed into your lap, and then confessed she had wanted you all along? Have you ever experienced something like that? An old crush suddenly becoming something real? Tell me your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships, where you'll get shorter exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.